serving 40, or in the case of someone like David Brahm, 120 years, or in the case of Jerry Vang, 60, or, I mean, we go on and on and on. Or they are serving a life sentence plus another for attempted because someone else was in the vicinity, or an aggravated gang enhancement. And of these 95, 76% are Black or brown. 76% in the state of Minnesota. 51% are African American. 12% are Indigenous. And that's the state that's 1% Indigenous. Someone's got to mute. I'm sorry, guys.
Wayne, you got to mute.
Maybe it's me. I don't know. 9% Latinx. I mean, we go on. And of those, 28 of them, I'm sorry, 35 of them are serving consecutive sentences of these 95. 86% of those with consecutives are Black or brown. 86%. Again, the state is 83% white. And at the time these sentences were imposed, the state was closer to 90% white. And only 28 of the 95 have served 15 years or more and would now be eligible. So that's the landscape. I talked to our legislative author yesterday at length. And she essentially said, it's too late this session. Warren Limmer has effectively run out the clock again. He's done it every year of the last 3. And, basically, here's how this all went down. We didn't think we were going to have traction at all this year, but we now have some good people in the Department of Corrections. The deputy commissioner who's been pushing this really hard is a good friend of mine, Curtis Shanklin. Paul Schnell is in support. Keith Ellison, who just texted right now, who thinks this should be at 10 years. He's our Attorney General, Preston. Thinks it should be at 10 years and not 15 years. Or 0 years, either one, he said. But again, I mean, he doesn't think we should be doing this to children, and he understands the racial implications. Governor Walz is in support. Gwen Walz is in support. I mean, we've got a lot of vocal support, but we knew we wouldn't get a hearing from Limmer without the County Attorneys Association support. And we didn't think it would happen this year, but the lobbyist for the County Attorneys Association went to Commissioner Curtis Shanklin and said, why aren't you bringing another juvenile reform bill again this year? And he said, because you guys have been stuck at 25 years and we won't do it at 25 years. And she said, we could be closer to 20 or 15. So we all scrambled. I reached out to Preston, and we have spent the last, I don't know, Preston, was it like 2 months ago this all started? Scrambling around. We put together our bill. The county attorneys wait again. And we just heard back last week that they have about 25 problems with our bill. And they are at 25 years again. So,
Harry, sorry to interrupt, but how can we pressure? I don't know how it works. Like, is there a way to pressure the County Attorneys Association?
So that is a great question. It's, it is both for them, it is both the difficulty of having a huge association that you have someone like Nancy Haas, the lobbyist, who personally would do this at 15 or 20 years and thought she had the votes. But then, you get everyone together in a meeting and someone from, and I'm just speculating, someone from outstate that doesn't have anyone serving the sentence and, who encounters a person of color maybe once every 6 months. And I'm being facetious, but that can be the case here. It has said, no, I'm uncomfortable. These are the worst of the worst. We're back at 25, and Nancy has to sit in her hands. So the decentralized nature of that organization, having 87 people, I don't even know who to go to. So we're supposed to have a meeting coming up. The author is Heather Adelson, who's we work through, when we get our authors, we work through the chair of the Public Safety Committee, Carlos Mariani, do people know Jamel Lundy, his legislative assistant, who is brilliant and a champion for sure. And he's the one that tagged Heather to be the author. Ron Latz on the Senate side has always been willing to be our author. But Heather got it late in the session. Like this all happened late in the session because we didn't think it would go anywhere. She got it. And the frustrating thing about the county attorneys is every year they've said, we don't have time, this is too complicated. We've put forward basically the same bill every year. I mean, they know what it is. They've known what it is. They don't want to do anything for a few reasons. One is they think it's somewhat been solved by this 30 to life thing. And frankly, I mean, here's the other thing that I haven't mentioned. We are still seeking life without parole for kids in this state. Like, I can't say that loud enough. They will say, we have no one serving. There is a kid, and Preston knows this, right now in Scott County named Braylon Miller, who is sitting there facing life without parole for an offense that happened when he was 16 that was committed by his father. Okay, Taryn Miller brought Braylon along on a drug deal and shot a kid on the drug deal. Braylon was present, didn't handle the gun. They were both charged with first-degree murder, both facing life without release. Taryn Miller died of COVID in Scott County Jail in December. Braylon's mom, Anne Marie Miller, is now in Shakopee Prison serving 3 years as an accessory after the fact. Oh, and by the way, Braylon is like one of 3 African-American kids in Scott County, which probably goes without saying. But Braylon—
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Perry. I'm Dennis Donovan, folks. I work at the University of Minnesota Humphrey School. And my question is, it's great that the attorney Perry is working on it. I'd like to know who's the organizer of this group. And as an organizer myself and a person that created the church-based group Isaiah, we got to talk about power. And if you've identified, Perry, those who are the resistors, then the strategy is to talk individually to these people, find out what they care about, and that's a strategy that does work. So there needs to be, I think, a people's movement as well as a legal movement. And I just was interested in knowing who of this group is the lead organizer of the team. And thank you, Perry.
I mean, I can tell you what's happened so far is that we don't really have a lead organizer. I have been working with, so I'm a professor at the University of Minnesota as well. And we have worked periodically with folks from Humphrey as well. We have worked with folks from the Legal Rights Center, with Curtis Shanklin at DOC prior to him joining DOC. We have a coalition that's now been created, a juvenile justice coalition that's been created through Legal Rights Center that is beginning to kind of organize and develop a policy strategy. But those of us that have been doing this have been doing it ad hoc, on just whatever borrowed time we have, and that's a problem. I mean, we need a chief organizer, and there are, I'm horrible at this stuff. I will be totally candid. I don't have good political instincts and want to carry this over the finish line because I care about the people. I will cede whatever info I have, and that's why I'm spilling it out. I would love people that have organizational skills and instincts to get behind this and start being, at the head of it. And Dennis, Isaiah, Lars at different points has been an ally. I mean, we have a lot of allies out there. What we don't have, and I say that I think it should be centralized also around sentencing reform more broadly, is that this isn't just about life without release. It's about, punishing, frankly, it's about punishing Black and brown children in really egregious ways. And so the broader the aura we have here, I think the more effective.
Just one comment, Preston. So since we've identified, we've got LIMER and the Minnesota County Attorneys Association. So just to be clear, you think that if the Minnesota County Attorneys Association backed it, do you think that would be enough to get LIMER to have a hearing in the Senate at least?
I don't know, because we have another juvenile justice package this year that is backed by them, that was passed all the House committees on a bipartisan basis, that does things like getting rid of shackling for children, solitary confinement for children, visible strip searches for children. Limmer wouldn't, even though that passed bipartisan basis, county attorneys on board speaking somewhat in favor, Limmer wouldn't hear it all. He would hear just pieces of it.
So Preston, what are your, like, based on your work in other states with hardcore Republicans, some who've even like championed these bills, what is your, and that's kind of why I wanted to like host this meeting, because I feel like you just have to tell us what to do so that we can go for it. I mean, what do we have to lose if he's not even hearing these bills?
Yeah. Well, let me hold off on addressing that real quick, because I'm interested to ask Perry, since we know that the Senate is not going to move right now. Do you think there's value in going ahead and trying to get the House committee to have a hearing, have a vote, see if you can get it to the House in 2021?
So we already did pass all the requisite House committees. And this is what the other thing that I found out from Heather Adelson yesterday. We passed public safety, we passed judiciary. This bill is not in the omnibus bill yet, but it's going to be forced in through an amendment. And there is going to be a fight on the House floor about it. And I don't know exactly what that means, because we're at the omnibus stage, and maybe you understand this better than I do, Preston, or maybe others in the call do. Does that mean that it's still going to have to pass the House in the natural course, or are they picking and I mean, to get in the omnibus bill, it's got to pass the House, is my understanding. And so I think it's still going to be heard on the floor. Again, it's all very different this year. Because of COVID. I'm not sure what that sequence looks like, but I met with Heather yesterday. I'm going to meet with her again to give her talking points. And I've got a memo that I'm writing for her to make sure she's up to speed and on a lot of what you've told me, Preston, about the national landscape.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it will come out of the House sometime in the next week, and they're looking to put it in the omnibus as an amendment to something. I'm not sure what.
Okay.
Now,
Could we pressure Limmer, like how much say, so when it's in the
then we're past the Limmer stage. I didn't understand that either yet. We're past the Limmer stage now because the Senate committee hearings are done. I mean, Limmer would have had to have said yes to hearing it a long time ago. So what now happens, and again, if others can know more about this than I do, please jump in. So my understanding with the omnibus bill is there's a subcommittee designated on the Senate side and on the House side. Obviously, on the House side, it'll be predominantly Democrat. On the Senate side, predominantly Republican. They will each have bills that each chamber has selected to push forward on, and they will have to meet to reconcile those bills. Limmer will probably be on that subcommittee, is my guess, because he's the chair of arguably one of the most consequential Senate committees. But they'll get together then and decide what ultimate package goes to the governor. And this, because it's not been heard at all in the Senate, and it's a significant policy bill, my understanding is that it's unlikely that it will go anywhere. It doesn't mean it can't. And I think I've testified there's the omnibus bills will get hearings themselves. And I've testified in the past at this stage on this bill, but I don't, I think it's not a Limmer thing now. I do think behind the scenes, and Preston may understand this too, I do think behind the scenes, if Limmer were to say this should be a priority, it would matter. And Preston is also, we've also been reaching out to, and I mean, here's the other piece of it, that the Department of Corrections has been lobbying hard on this bill with people like Limmer and Gazelka and a couple of the other names, Johnson, some of the other people that seem consequential, which is a really important new thing, which I think is why people had some hope this year.
Mm-hmm.
But so in terms of who to press and where, I'm hoping to know more about that for my next conversation with Adelson. The other thing that's happening is that we have a juvenile justice roundtable on Tuesday with the lieutenant governor. I don't know if you can put up, there's a flyer that we just signed off on that went out for that. And that's going to include a panel, and it'll include this issue and others. It's supposed to be televised. I don't, it'll be publicly put out there somehow. It's Lieutenant Governor Curtis Shanklin, Deputy DOC Commissioner, some legislators, and a bunch of advocates. And I think it'll be open to the public. So this will come up then on Tuesday. Heather Adelson will be there. We made sure that she was a prominent invitee. So could something come out of that? I'm not sure. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah. Well, my feeling is, as kind of an outside observer, that, getting anything done in the Senate in 2021, it sounds like it's kind of a long shot. It doesn't mean that you don't continue to have those conversations, and try to figure out what possible avenues might be available. But while you're doing that, in the back of your mind, you may want to be thinking strategically about the 2022 legislative session. And again, it'd be great if we could add a couple of more states, especially if we could get a Wisconsin, especially if Texas would come on down to 20-year parole eligibility, because those become talking points in your meetings with problem lawmakers to say, well, goodness gracious, at least we should be as concerned about our children as Texas is. At least we should be as concerned about second chances and redemption as our neighbor Wisconsin is. I think you need to start thinking about, like you were saying, what does Limmer care about? If the only thing that he cares about is the prosecutors, then go ahead and let's talk about over the summer and fall, getting the prosecutors to the table and helping them understand the national trend. I guarantee you the prosecutors in Minnesota are not paying attention to what's happening in Texas, right? They need to know that. They need to know that the Commonwealth Attorneys Association in Virginia supported the legislation to abolish life without parole for kids, and start having those kinds of conversations, as well as pulling together other potential coalition partners, because Senator Limmer probably doesn't care what I have to say. He would meet with me and listen to me a little bit, especially if I talk about my experience as a prosecutor. He might be interested in something like that. But does he care about what Minnesota business leaders are saying? Because, we can bring in the Responsible Business Initiative and they can start cultivating some CEOs. That's how we won in Ohio. Over the summer, last summer, the Senate president in a meeting said that he would be perfectly fine with continuing to impose the death penalty against children if it just weren't unconstitutional. And so we were like, okay, well, there we go. We're never getting anything out of the Senate. But we had business leaders working on him, people who do second chance hiring, and stuff. And they started talking about how bad these policies are for Ohio businesses. And one of them in particular, it was a dumb hot chicken restaurant, but it was this guy's favorite restaurant. And so we had the owner contact him and say, this makes sense to me. This is about believing that kids can change. And by the end of the session, when it came up for a floor vote, the Senate president took the microphone, same guy who wanted to be killing kids, he took the microphone and said, we're a nation that believes in redemption. And that's why I'm supporting this legislation. It's also, if you're talking to a Republican, then throw Clinton and Biden under the bus. Say that these policies, the super predator myth that caused all these kids to be sent to prison for long periods of time, that happened under Bill Clinton. Hillary Clinton was the one who made the word super predator famous. And I was testifying in Nashville earlier this week, and I am not a Trump fan, full disclosure here, but I said President Trump recognized that these policies were problematic. That's why he championed the First Step Act. And there's a lot of work left to do, Tennessee. Trump knows it. You know it, so unless you want to kiss Hillary on the mouth, we need to reverse these policies. And all of a sudden, these people who want to be tough on crime and everything, they're like, oh, geez, we need to go back to how the good old days before Clinton took over, right? So you got to be strategic about who you're talking to, and help them understand that these aren't policies that they should feel the need to defend. And if they are concerned about public safety, talk to them about the recidivism rate. So I don't want to keep going, but over the summer and fall, we can maybe schedule some meetings with some of those problem people. We can cultivate some coalition partners and business leaders, the Players Coalition, maybe get some of the Timberwolves players or Vikings players to
One
author an
question
op-ed.
about that is so Eric Kendricks, who's a really good linebacker and just a wonderful guy, is really plugged in increasingly. One of the hubs for all this is a restaurant that a friend of mine started called All Square. And Eric supports All Square and has become a lot more vocal on racial justice, and has indicated through his work with All Square that the Vikings are generally more interested in starting to take a stand and sort of what they support and not. Do you think that's a viable? I mean, I've thought about, and his his now fiance is someone who's also pretty well known on the national modeling scene now, and an athlete herself, and very interested in this stuff. Is this something that we should be pursuing with folks like Eric?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Anything that you can do to elevate this issue and to show that the group of people who are supporting it is not just Perry, and it's not just people who have family members who are incarcerated.
Yeah.
Right? They know how those people feel. You need to have people who, come from different perspectives, who have big Twitter followings. That's something else that we have really done in Maryland, because Maryland has been like pulling teeth. Every damn step we have taken, we have had to do a Twitter push and tag the chair of the committee and say, let's have a vote. And all of a sudden, we have people with, 30,000 Twitter followers pushing that out. Or we say, call this chairman and tell them that you want this hearing to be scheduled. And all of a sudden, his phone rings 100 times saying, call it for a hearing. So you've got to kind of develop that social media. So if y'all are not on Twitter, get on there and start following some of those folks, and be willing to tag people so that when it gets retweeted, every time it gets retweeted, they're getting pinged so that they know that this is something that people are paying attention to. Faith leaders, find out, where's Limmer from? Talk to the 10 biggest congregations in his district and see if you can get the senior pastors of the churches where he lives to you write the letter. I'll write the letter. We used a letter from faith leaders in Maryland.
Yeah.
And we had some big churches, any church with a social justice ministry or a prison ministry, say, here's the letter. Can we put your church's name on the letter? And then send it to every member of the committee.
We did that early on, I think, quite effectively, not through me at all, but others. I think Isaiah organized most of that early on.
Early on, like years ago, or early on this?
Yeah, no, 2013, 14, we had multiple press conferences with some of the multiple denominations, faith leaders, and that I think was quite helpful. But once again, it was able to be torpedoed.
We reached out from our group for the Juvenile Sentencing Reform Minnesota. We reached out to all the churches in Maple Grove, Rogers, and Osseo. We used a lot of quotes from the Bible.
From Preston. He's from Maple.
Yeah, that's his district. So we reached his own church. But again, I think it would have been really helpful if we had something we could send from, the Campaign for Fair Sentencing of Youth, from a national organization, or from a larger, or from, that would have had like a bunch of people's names on it. Like we've done a lot of research about the businesses in his district, the churches in his district. We've got like an army of people. We're a group of 10 people who are sitting here waiting to do the work. We just want to be told, how do we do it? We're ready to send out emails. We're ready to door knock. We will do whatever it takes. And so I do think the business and the churches, like Preston was saying, that's key. And I don't think it's talked about enough.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. They'll if they start getting emails, from folks, if they start getting tweets, and calls, because you send out a tweet, you say, everybody call this guy. And all of a sudden, his voicemail fills up, or his email box, starts filling up. They're going to start feeling the pinch from that, right? you start showing them it's going to cost you more politically to do nothing than it is to just schedule it for a stupid hearing. And that was my attitude with our chair, the committee chair for the House. I don't care if he votes for it. I don't need his support. We whipped the votes. We had the votes in the committee. Just get out of the damn way, right? That's all you're after. And so you want to make them kind of feel the pinch, whether it's from sports people, celebrities, businesses, faith leaders, and just run of the mill people, blowing up his email. That's how you start to kind of break through. But I think it would be a great idea, maybe in August or so, for us to plan a webinar and feature somebody from the governor's office and feature somebody from the Department of Correction. And if you can get a prosecutor or two to peel off from the association, that's what we had in Maryland. We didn't have it in Ohio, but we had a couple in Maryland who are willing to go against the association.
So ironically, Preston, we have the prosecutor of the second biggest county in Minnesota who's willing to support John Choi, and this is the St. Paul County here. He is routinely drowned out by Mike Freeman and Hennepin, and I think that's that's the problem. He's willing to start letting people out and doing his own excessive sentencing reviews to do this. So there are some really prominent voices we could get.
Yeah.
One question I have is there anything we should still be doing now, even if we don't think this is going to go anywhere this year? So Malika just joined, and Malika's sort of the head of the coalition that I mentioned earlier that we've put together this year. And we're going to be meeting later today in that group to get ready for this roundtable next week. But among other things, and Malika knows this, and Gavra knows this, I put together an email. I just feel like I need to send out an email blast to people who care about the issue, who've been waiting for word. And frankly, just a lot of folks on the inside need to know where we are in it. So I tried to put together a fairly comprehensive email with some action items and next steps. And we're going to hopefully nail that down today and send it out. I've also got an op-ed that I drafted, and I drafted it on behalf of Mayan, who's on here. I think he had to step away, and myself, in part because with Mayan's name on it, it will get published.
Anyone who doesn't know, do you want to just tell? I think everyone probably knows who Mayan is.
I can say it unless Mayan wants to say it.
No, you can say it. You say it better.
No, I don't.
Yeah, better introductory. I just sent her in the room saying, "Introduce me, please."
Whatever. Mayan is his own best spokesperson by far, but he appears to be driving somewhere. Mayan was released from prison on December 15th, 2020, after 18 years. He went in at 16. Mayan is in a different category in a lot of ways, Preston, in that Mayan's innocent. And the reason that, and it's not to say others are not innocent, it's simply to say that a big piece of his case is that he was wrongfully convicted. And that is something that, we're still working through as well, which is why Mayan hasn't gone on the record as much as he would have liked. That said, everyone wants to hear from Mayan because he's amazing to hear from, because his story's, really important and inspirational. And so I drafted this op-ed about juvenile sentencing reform, and a big piece of it was, here's who I am and here's what happened, but hey, there are so many more people inside, including people he's close to, that, our family members and loved ones of people in this Zoom call right now, he can say are also, remarkable, talented, accomplished, fully grown adults who we need out here. And another friend of Mayan's may want to be Eliza Darris, who was in for 17 years. He went in at 15, has expressed a desire to join this op-ed. So we can do that. I just don't know. And, Malika knows we've been going back and forth strategically. The frame that I think makes the most sense is a racial justice frame, given all the attention on Minnesota right now generally. And we can reframe it that way. We can reframe it highlighting the Braylon Miller case, which I think raises the urgency of the issue. I mean, we wait another year here to do this. Meanwhile, this child is, maybe sentenced to discretionary life without parole in Scott County. And, I mean, what's not out there, but what will be out there is the abuse that this kid suffered and why he was where he was at the time at all. And so it's a compelling story, but it's a very real time urgent matter for him, and for other people that have been in for years and years and are not well and may die there unless they have some relief. So I know that. I'm just saying, is there, we can strategically, I agree, it'll probably be next session. But because all eyes are on Minnesota right now, because of this trial, because, we have these pressing urgent issues, because we have, I mean, I can't even tell you how happy I am to see all these people in one space on this issue. It's been super hard to do. I mean, and maybe it's just that I'm not good at thinking about this stuff, and that's very, very likely. I mean, I so happily cede anything I can here to make this happen. But should we do this op-ed? Should we blast out this email? Should we not let things die now?
My personal feeling is, and this is the strategy that we're employing in Tennessee right now, is to get it through the House. Because as long as it's not in the Senate, Limmer can ignore it, right? Easily. He can easily ignore it. And he talked to me, when it's cleared the House, right? All we care about in Tennessee this session is getting it through this. In our case, it's the Senate. We know we can't get it through the House right now. We want to get it through the Senate, and then we want to start having meetings. So I think my focus would be get it through the House with as clean and wide a margin as you can. And then that creates an opportunity to say, okay, Limmer, DOC, you get your friends at DOC and the governor's office to try to get a meeting with Limmer to talk it through.
Malika, do you know, I mean, what Heather Adelson said yesterday is that this is still like, she still has to fight fight this on the House floor. Does that mean that it's going to go to a House vote? She needs to send it as an amendment to the omnibus package. Do you know what that means? She had to jump off actually for a meeting on this bill after we talked yesterday.
Yeah, so this week is the week that both bodies, the House and the Senate, are creating and supposed to be passing their omnibus bill. The omnibus bill is like the catch everything bill for all of the policies that haven't independently passed through. So what Representative Adelson is saying is that if it's not going to be included in the omnibus bill, which the deadline for that essentially is today. So since it probably won't be included in that omnibus bill, she still does have some option to have it heard on the floor and voted on as a full amendment on the floor of the House. And she has a little bit of time to do that. So if from my understanding, our pathways forward for the next few weeks are to really push it and get it heard on the floor and have it go through a full vote on the floor. Or when it comes down for House leadership and Senate leadership to come for a conference negotiation, potentially Chair Mariani could bring it with him into that negotiating room and have it on the table there and argue for it to be included because the chair has a lot of discretion.
I'm texting Heather right now and we'll see if we get a response, but.
If I can just say something, I would just caution doing too much until you're really focused on what you're going to do. My experience working with people is people will drop off if they're not working and there isn't a vision of what the end goal is. I will make a commitment. I know Avra. I work with many young men at Stillwater Prison. I know a lot of the people that were mentioned today, So I'm going to do, now that I have some information that I didn't have before, I'll be doing visits with people and gathering information. And then talk to Avra of what I would think would be some possibilities to move forward. What we're talking about basically is power, who has it, who doesn't, how do you influence those that do, and people are at the center of this. So that would be just my caution, is to just don't go off without having a real serious plan that includes legislators, and what Preston said is organizing 101. Who do you know? Who do these politicians know? How do you leverage those people to push those politicians? And the churches are a huge, huge, huge player. And Isaiah is an organization, but Isaiah isn't the only player in town. And there are pastors that would step to the front of this and bring their flocks, but that takes people visiting with the pastors. What do the pastors care about? What do they want out of this? This is politics and organizing 101. So I will commit to do some visits next few weeks.
And I'll just add to that, when it comes to faith people, I mean, that is my bag. Okay. So I love talking to church people. I'm happy to be involved in that or help. If that's not something that you're super comfortable with, I'm happy to do a training on how to talk to, religious people in language that they will appreciate. So definitely remember me for that.
Preston gave me a couple verses that I have quoted in the past to people that have mattered a lot that I didn't know how to cite, but.
Preston, could you possibly create some type of really brief video that, or I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could maybe create a video with you talking about this issue from the platform of the Campaign for Fair Sentencing of Youth, possibly even some quotes by Republican legislators who've passed this, but something we could send out targeted to churches, targeted to businesses, targeted to lawmakers, even if it's the same message or what have you, but something just short that we could send, or that that could come from Perry or could come from someone where people are listening. Because like I said, we've got the people and we've got the time, but our message isn't being heard because no one knows who we are. We're just random people. And so I think, is there something we could create like that to get this word out? Something we could even send to prosecutors on the County Attorneys Association?
What I would suggest is, with the prosecutors, you want to try to have a meeting. Maybe
Well, I do think we have that.
try to schedule a meeting sometime over the summer to the table.
That's actually coming in the next 2 weeks, apparently. They do want to meet.
With you and Heather Edelson?
They didn't reach out to me. They reached out to Heather Edelson and Curtis Shanklin. Heather and Curtis then brought me in. And Heather's trying to figure out who should be at that meeting. And I think it would be, and I've suggested Preston multiple times, just because, and I don't know if everyone in the call knows, if everyone heard Preston's background, but Preston used to be a prosecutor. And he was an assistant or associate attorney general in Tennessee, and has been on the other side of serious juvenile sentencing cases. And I think his story is really, really compelling. In fact, there's a really good video about Preston that's worth seeing too, that I think can be pretty compelling.
Well, thank you for the plug there.
Well, but I'm serious. I mean, I think your point is that it's still possible to have public safety in mind and have constituents and be a public servant and working for the public good and be, merciful and redemptive and humane and recognize that kids are kids. And I think that's at the heart of the message. And so it doesn't, they're not mutually exclusive. But the question is, who should be at this meeting? And Malika, that's part of what we're going to talk about at some point in the next week is, at a certain point, I don't think I'm so effective. I get along just fine with the county attorneys, but I'm just seen as this like academic defense attorney who has been running around not getting this bill passed for 8 years, and I'll do anything to get it passed, literally. But I think there are other people who could front it more effectively, and maybe that's something that it's something we're thinking about in the coalition. Maybe Dennis has a better idea about how that would all work. Again, I mean, I'll create any set of talking points in the world that and deliver them to anyone to deliver them. But I think that's something we do need to think about.
Those, and everyone who's in the meeting right now, if everyone here or most of the people here, I contacted with an email. So anyone can email me. We have weekly meetings with Juvenile Sentencing Reform Minnesota, and we're basically just waiting. We've been waiting for Preston, Perry, whoever, to tell us how to act, and anyone can join this group. So if you guys want to continue to get involved, Saluki, I know me and you have connected, and Sheila, so Saluki and Sheila, their children are incarcerated. And so they're, major stakeholders in this. And so anyone who wants to get involved, we're meeting on a weekly basis. And like I said, we've just been waiting to hear what we can do and how to support this work.
As we kind of close up, I do think everybody should get on Twitter. That's an easy, if you're not on there, and follow the campaign for the fair sentencing of youth, and follow, for example, the New Mexico Coalition for Fair Sentencing of Youth. That's a group just like this. It's just grassroots advocates, and they did a fantastic job in 2021 with their bill. They scheduled meetings with the prosecutors in their districts. They scheduled meetings with their representatives and senators. They didn't do really work on op-eds. I kind of helped them with some op-eds. We were kind of hamstrung because the bill sponsor really did not want any involvement from an outside organization. And so we were sort of ghost writing some stuff for them, but they did a great job pulling stuff together and making noise. And they did a lot up through social media. That would be an easy first step to stay in the loop, and kind of see what's working.
Preston, I just got an update from Heather Adelson. The bill is going to pass the House, and it will be in the omnibus. And she says the issue is getting it through the conference committee. It likely won't make it through that process with the Senate. It made it in the omnibus that they passed last night. Awesome. Now it will go to the floor with the omnibus next week and pass, she says.
So if that happens, then that needs to be
I'm sorry, she's just texting if you want to hear it. I don't know if it's helpful. Then in conference committee with the Senate is where we will have an issue. And I'm asking her who we should be targeting in that process.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, because you want to elevate this. When it passes the House, that is something to celebrate, right? Okay. I mean, that is something where you want to get online and you want to thank your bill sponsor. You want to thank the Speaker of the House, and you want to say thank you for standing up for children. Hashtag no child is born bad. All kids deserve hope, right? And retweet that, right? And then say it's now going to the conference committee. And then tag a couple of people and say, we're looking at you. The House has done its job. Please act now to pass House Bill 416. Get in line. And what we always say is, get in line with Texas, get in line with Arkansas. It's working in West Virginia. Join these other states.
So should we time this op-ed then to drop after it passes the House?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
The House just passed this. Yeah, I mean, again, so what I would love to do is I'm going to reframe it a little bit. I'm taking the temperature of what's happening with the Chauvin trial now, and I do think it's got to have a racial justice frame, an explicit racial justice frame from the start to the finish, and weave in everything. Preston's seen a draft of it already, but I think we're going to change it. If Mayan's still good, I don't even know that it should have my name on it. I think that's a question. Who would be the most effective? I think they would publish it with Mayan, but it could be
Mayan.
Sorry, Mayan. I don't. And I want to make
I
sure.
don't know.
Yeah, I want to make sure he's cool with it for sure. But and Eliza as well. I mean, there are different people who could do this. But I think that's a great thought too. And again, this is just why it's so great that you're here, and why you don't want me doing any of the strategizing, because it wouldn't have occurred to me to do that. To champion the message.
See if the would the op-ed work if it was co-authored by Mayan and that prosecutor?
John Choi.
John Choi.
Yeah, not the other one. John Choi.
Not the other one. I could ask John. The only reason he might not go there, I'll ask him for sure. Mayan's case is like this with the other prosecutor right now. He's the one that is holding up Mayan's full exoneration. And so John might not want to, it might be seen as adversarial to Freeman.
Yeah.
And John is, but who would do it with Mayan in a heartbeat is Keith Ellison. Now, I don't know I've run that by committee chairs. I mean, Keith was willing to testify in support of our bill. He's willing to write letters. But what people have said is maybe it's not as effective because the Republicans are so adverse to anything he says and does that they mount resistance as soon as he steps in the room. So I don't know. I mean, we can put together the op-ed, make sure Mayan's comfortable with it, then strategize about co-authors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to be there in the sense that if there are questions to answer about the history and the details, I'm happy to be part of that or not. Just to
you're going to be there for sure. You got to be there
to answer the questions. I just think we need to figure out, we want fresh faces here, for sure, doing this, I think. But I'll put it together and we can, and I think, according to Heather, it'll pass this. So it's in the omnibus, made it in, but the thing to celebrate is it passing the House. And will we know that, Malika, next week when it happens? Can we track that?
Yeah, we can track that pretty easily.
Okay. And then we've also got this roundtable on Tuesday. And can people tune into the roundtable?
Yeah, I will send that information to Avra this afternoon so she can send it out to the rest of the group.
I can email that to everyone who's in this meeting.
Okay. And Malika, who are the panelists in that? Have we decided on that? It's going to be, certainly the lieutenant governor.
Yeah, so the lieutenant governor. So this is like generally about youth justice, and so a number of different provisions that we have working in the legislature this year. But the lieutenant governor will be there. We have a couple of family members and or young people who've experienced the youth justice system. Kevin Reese is going to be on the panel. A couple of younger folks from both the metro area and outstate. And then Curtis from the
Is Sarah going to be on it as well?
Say that one more time.
Is Sarah going to be on it as well?
Yeah, Sarah's going to be on it. And Gary Charwood, who is the chair of the Juvenile Justice Advisory Committee, JJAC.
Which is bipartisan.
Yeah. And then we've invited all of these important legislators, all of our bill authors, Limmer, all of those folks. We've invited them. I think Adelson said that she can be on it. I'm waiting to hear back on a couple of other folks.
Yeah, she just confirmed by text on that as well.
And see, if it passes the House, that just gives you you can do a little bit more of a flex at your next meeting with the DAs. You can say, look, this is coming. This is coming. We want you on board. We want to be sensitive, to what you think is feasible. We want to deal in good faith, but it's coming. And it's next year, it's going to be coming stronger than it did this year, and just put them on notice that they need to be, jumping on board and use these other states as examples.
One last quick question for you all. The Associated Press reporter, she's a Pulitzer Prize winner, and she's the one who broke Mayon's story a year ago, or a little more than a year ago. Her name's Robin McDowell, and she's in large part, one of the main reasons Mayon is out. She's focused on quote unquote juvenile lifers. That's her, she wants to do profiles on individual people. She wants to make this a series to contextualize all of it. And there are a lot of other people who she's in touch with now on a daily basis, including some who, Maya knows, who are in for a long time and shouldn't be, who have really compelling stories. Is that something that's helpful? Like, should she do this series and have it roll out over time?
Yeah, I think maybe for the fall.
Okay.
I think that would be great, because what we did in Maryland, because, with Maryland, just so you know, we felt like we were in pretty good shape last session until COVID hit, and it just completely derailed the session, right? And everything fell apart. But what that gave us was the summer and the fall to host a few Zoom meetings for advocates first, to do some kind of advocacy training. Then we had one for state level faith leaders. And we just really, really invited faith leaders, send your social justice committees, or whomever, to talk to them about it. And that's how we generated interest in a letter that they signed on to and we sent to all the members. And then we had more targeted Zoom meetings with committee members and lawmakers. And of course, we depended on our bill sponsors to kind of generate interest in those, so that a lot of lawmakers were feeling, even though they weren't sponsors, that they were being looked to as people who should support these bills, And so leading into the session in Maryland, we published a couple of op-eds in the fall just to keep the issue on people's mind. This is coming. Be ready for this. The Juvenile Restoration Act is coming, So we had an op-ed by the Players Coalition with Torrey Smith, the former wide receiver for the Ravens.
Sure.
And we did one, I forget what the other one was. Might have been a prosecutor and a formerly incarcerated person together doing an op-ed. And those kind of primed the pump so that when the legislative session began, the bill was filed immediately on the first day of the session. And we had a packet of information, including, the op-ed, a fact sheet that included the racial disparity, and a couple of letters of support from faith leaders, maybe one from businesses. And we fired that packet off, as attachments to an email saying, we want you to support this. Committee chairs, we want to get a hearing as soon as we possibly can, So you hit the ground running.
Hi, my name is Saluki. Now, I just found out a few weeks ago that my son Amani, one of my daughters wrote me, and she sent me an email saying that Amani has not started a 30-year sentence yet. He's been in prison for 15, going on 16 years, and the way they sentenced him was, I guess, consecutive. Does anybody know if I can get it reduced to concurrent? And I don't know who to talk to about.
We can stay on that. If you want to stay on at the end, I can talk to you a little bit about that.
All right.
Yeah,
and brother, I just want to say peace, man. It's good to see you out here.
Hey,
man. Send Monty my love, man. Tell him I said keep his head up, man. Stay strong.
I will. I was just telling Albert today that me and you always put our hands up together every time I see you. But
for sure, man. We're gonna lock in. We're gonna get a chance to lock in.
Right. And tell your dad I said hi.
I got you. Take care.
Thanks.
Yeah, but if you want to stay on, I can talk to you about that.
Okay, thank you.
Was there anything else that we needed to talk about? I think maybe the big things are, we'll look at that op-ed again,
I'll
we'll
put that together.
And we'll be waiting to see the bill come out of the House.
Question, does it make sense to set another meeting? I mean, even for this time next week, can we? And I'm so mindful of your time, or whatever time. But at some point next week, just so we continue to
Sure.
update. If people can stay in this, it is so critical.
We can get more people. We've got a lot of people
Yeah,
too.
I mean,
I've got a meeting at this time next week, but I could do 10 o'clock next Friday morning.
Can we see a show of hands?
So with me, I'm like I try my best to make it. I'm actually at work right now, but like yeah, for real, like I'm literally at work, right? But even if I just tap in and I could listen, I try to get feedback, like whatever I can do, I'm here, you know what I'm saying? But like I'm super limited, like from 7 to 3:30 Monday through Friday, you feel me? But yeah, I'll for sure, if even if I'll put it together, I gotta be here, you know. It might be, I might not be able to say anything. It might just be a picture on the screen, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, exactly. She can update me too.
Well, I'll go ahead and put that on my calendar to meet at 10 o'clock next Friday morning. And if something changes, we'll just get the word out. I'm going to turn off our recording. And Perry, do you want me to make you the host? Are people going to stay on?
If that's okay, yeah, I would just, I think if that's all right.
I'll also just send out a follow-up email for anyone who wants to link up with us. I think there's a lot of work, Mayan, that you and I can do around the social media piece and starting to really get this out on because you have a big following. And we're getting a bigger following. We have almost 400 now, so.
We'll put it together.
Okay.
We'll put it together for sure.
All right, Perry, you are now the host of the meeting. I'm going to jump off, but I'll look forward to talking to y'all again.
Preston, thank you so much.
Take care, man. It's good. It's nice meeting you too.
Yeah, y'all too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Preston. Okay. Bye, everyone. See you all next week.
All right, take care.
Hey, Maya, I am short. Well, let me pull this.
I can't see you. Oh, okay. You stepped
Mom,
on?
you're on mute, Mom.
Okay, can you hear me?
No, I can hear it now.
Okay,
Now
yeah,
I
I'm
can't see you
Shorty.
though.
You can't see me. I am Shorty Lord's mom, and he says thank you for helping. Come back and get him.
Yeah, I got you, man. Tell him I said I love him. Keep his head up, man. Everything I could do, I'm gonna do. I promise. You know what I mean?
Tell him. I'll tell him.
And tell him that's my life. That's my life. That's my life goal. You know what I mean? Like I'm pressing everything, every opportunity. Like I'm really trying to make something happen. Like it's super. It's not easy, but it's a lot going on out here. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of people that care. And so right now we just got to reach out and a lot of them are really oblivious to really what's taking place behind the walls, and they just need somebody to speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. So,
exactly.
like I'm out here, but tell them, make sure you know, tell them I said, send them my love, tell them I said I got it. Tell them I said call too.
Him. Okay, he will. All right, bye.
All right, you take care. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about the consecutive piece? I'm happy to do it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so what was Mani's sentence? Was it, does he have life?
And Monty was a child too. Monty was like 15 when he came to prison.
Mine was 15.
He was 15.
17 when he came. By the time they sentenced him to prison, but it was 15.
But he was 15 when he came down. Yeah.
Okay. Let me I can look him up right now.
Okay.
So the bottom line is if he got consecutives, there's no way to reduce him to concurrence. And that's part of the reason that there isn't at this point, unless there was some problem with unless there was something illegal about the way the sentences or unconstitutional about the way they were.
That's what I like to find out.
Yeah, but this is what I'll tell you. The reason we're doing the legislation we're doing and what other states have done around the country is they've given every child a first look at 15 or 20 or whatever it is, irrespective of how many sentences they have. Because the bottom line, and this is the message I keep sending,
Wait a minute.
people that get
My
consecutive
dad
in
is
the
about to
state.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
I mean, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the people who get consecutives in this state are disproportionately Black and brown. I mean, they just are. And, you know, the context I always give when we talk about, when people say anyone who has 2 victims or anyone with consecutive sentences is the worst of the worst, is this. There's a kid I know who's not a kid anymore, who's done 15 years in Rush City, named Clayton Keister, who I really like. He's a wonderful guy. He's a white kid from Blaine who had resources, and he and his friend are in a double murder of the friend's parents. And the facts suggest that it was planned and that they together executed this other kid's parents. And they were each charged with 2 first-degree murder counts, and they each are serving 1 sentence. They were able to plead to 1 life sentence. And what I've said to everyone that'll listen is if they were Black or brown children, they would not have been offered that deal. I mean, this was arguably a pre-planned execution of adoptive parents of these 2, you know, these 2 well-resourced white kids. And so it is not enough to use these consecutive sentences as a proxy for additional punishment. And that's why we have to give every kid an individualized look at 15. And so that's what would happen with Monty. But
and Perry, so
yeah.
my thing, one of the biggest issues, like that everybody comes and they ask me, especially like the people that I went to prison with, like as children, is there like how is it the accountability? Like when you have co-defendants and one co-defendant actually committed the crime, but everybody's sentenced to the same sentence, or sometimes even a person who actually committed the crime, he has less time than a person who was an accomplice, and that person might have been a juvenile. So you might have a juvenile that was with an adult, but then they say that your brain's not. All of the science came back speaking about the brain's development. It's already come back, and it's saying that your brain's not fully. It's that you basically that you're still a kid until you're 25. Your brain's not developed until you're 25.
You're 100%.
But then you have children that are serving life sentences for crimes that adults that they were with have actually committed. Several children that I know are in prison. Well, they're not children anymore, but they came in as children. They're in prison right now for being with an adult who committed a crime.
Yeah, and that's the way our laws in Minnesota. There are a couple major problems with it. I mean, one is that we have this aiding and abetting liability statute, 60905, that allows everyone. First of all, the definition of aiding and abetting in Minnesota doesn't mean you have to have participated actively. No other state has as generous a definition as we do. What it means is that even if, you know, you're standing there, in the case of Braylon Miller, whose father committed this act, they may get Braylon Miller on aiding and abetting his father's act because he voluntarily drove away from the scene with his father. And anybody who hears this knows, you know, your father's telling you to do something. I mean, if that's not coercion, I don't know what is, right? And so they are equally liable the way we define aiding and abetting. Even if you're present and cooperative after the fact, that's enough for aiding and abetting. We also get people for aiding and abetting felony murder all the time here. That's why we need reform in that area. You can be merely present. You can have no intent to kill anyone at all. Someone happens to die on a drug deal gone bad, like in Braylon's case, and you're on felony murder. You can be committed for first degree there as well. You get life. Our laws are terrible in that regard. But the bottom line is we seek aiding and abetting, or we charge attempted murder and try to serve it consecutively a lot more with Black kids. And we have done that forever.
The way they have Amani sentences, he was sentenced to 57 years.
Jesus.
Being he won't get out of
Can
prison.
you spell his last name for me? Can you spell his full name?
Amani, A-M.
Yep, A-N-I. But last name?
Huh?
Spell his last name?
Fardan. Do you need his OID?
I've got a letter from him sitting right here.
Oh, okay, yes. And he's very articulate.
He sure is. He sure is. Where is Amani now? I think this letter, I mean, I just have my stack next to me right now.
He's in Stillwater.
Still in Stillwater. Okay. For some reason, I thought he was being moved. No?
No. I hope he doesn't, because Stillwater is close. I don't. Whenever visiting starts up again,
Yeah.
'cause I've been seeing him every.
It's supposed to start up again. It's supposed to start up again.
That's what he was telling me.
He was sentenced to 57.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
We have basically 57 years because they did it concurrent. And I just
consecutive. Yeah.
Consecutive.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, you guys, I gotta get up out of
No,
here.
it's okay.
But
Myron, nice to see you, brother.
Say hi
yeah,
to
it's
my
nice seeing you, man. You take care. For
And
sure.
like,
Yeah, when he come in, he'll be
Dad,
coming in for Juma in a second. I got you. I'll try to be in here next week, you guys. Y'all take care.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
See you, mine. Sorry. I'm sorry. My daughter just hold on for 1 second.
That's okay. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
That's good.
Okay. So can you just tell me, I'm having a hard time pulling up Mensis right now. It's frozen, but I can pull it up. So
Okay.
for Amani, he's serving 57. What's the combination? What were his charges? Do you remember?
Yeah, and see, and the one thing I was kind of curious about even how it happened, because he was 15.
Yeah.
He asked for me. They didn't allow me to come into the room or anything.
Did they challenge that at the time? Did they challenge his statements?
They ignored it.
Okay. Okay.
His statements.
Okay. So Amani's been in for 15 now.
Right. He's going on 16. Yes.
Okay. And was his charge? Was it a homicide?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what degree?
Well, the thing about it is when they wanted to make him take a plea, they had dropped it down to second degree unintentional. But since he didn't take the plea, they jumped it back up to first degree.
Wow. And was he advised not to take the plea?
No, I don't think he understood.
Oh man.
Because what had happened, and it happened before, he had this, it's a thing, he suffered from traumatic stress.
Oh, of course he did.
Because he had been being bullied from the time he was 11 years old. And I actually had the police calls on there when I called, because it was his neighbors always attacking him and threatening him and beating him up. And so when he got into this crime, he was bullied into this crime also. And so he would black out from time to time. And it actually happened when they were trying to make him take the plea for 30 years.
Who was his lawyer?
I couldn't afford a lawyer.
No. Oh, that's okay. Did he have a public defender?
Yeah, he had one. She's retired. I can't remember what her name is. Sharon something.
Okay.
But
okay.
The assistant was Chella Guzman.
Yeah, I know Chella.
Okay,
okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
Chella was the assistant on that.
Okay. I will. I can look up his case. If you want to do this, why don't we do this? I can look up his case, and if you want to schedule a time to talk, we can do that.
Okay, fine.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
I just wanted to chime in because we're just listening to everything, especially listening to you, sir. Your son's situation is very similar to my brother's situation. He got locked up when he was 15 and sentenced to 2 consecutive sentences, life sentences, and it ended up amounting to like 60 plus years.
Who's your brother, Glenn?
Prashawn Harris.
Okay,
Prashawn Harris. He's also in Stillwater.
If you bear with me, I'm just gonna grab my stack of letters.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'm gonna send you a direct message of like the spelling of his name quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very similar to Mr. Fardan's story, his son's story, I should say. And it's just, you know, it's heartbreaking. It's shocking to hear so many people with similar situations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to chime in and mention that.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are welcome to, I'll put my cell phone in the chat.
And
Krishan.
I think I just sent you a private message, with
Yeah,
his
I
name.
saw that.
The
I'll just put
spelling.
my cell phone in the chat, and you guys are welcome to reach out, and we can set up a call if you want to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
And
it's
thanks
just
for
sad.
opening
It sounds
it.
like an entire group of kids in Stillwater,
Yeah.
like with 40+ year sentences. Yeah, because Krishan's is, I think, 68 years total.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yep.
So was that Krishan's mom on the
Sheila,
phone?
yeah.
Yeah, Sheila is our mom.
Oh man.
Yeah, so our family's
She was
been
in
doing a lot of,
dialysis, so she couldn't
I
say
could
much.
tell she was in dialysis.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, there, you know, it's incredibly frustrating. I'm just looking through. I don't think I've heard from Krishan.
yeah, so our family's been actively you know, doing, you know, hands-on with the fight.
Okay.
You know, is a lot more lately than ever before. So that's
How
why
long has he been in?
since 1997, I believe.
1998.
98.
98. Okay. And he's in Stillwater. So I've gotten to know, so he must know LaVon Johnson. I mean, they've been in together for a long time. There are a lot of juveniles who've been in since then. And so he picked up there two, were they consecutive lives?
I want to say so. Venetia, if you can, you might have more detail on that.
I can look up both cases.
But
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, it's two murders, two attempted murders, two consecutive life sentences though. And then there was an upward departure as well of like 12 to 17 years.
What they call it, gang enhancement or something?
You know, that's a good
I'm
question.
not sure why he got the upward departure, but in his case, I know that the judge, it was his last case. And so it kind of seemed like he just wanted to go out with a bang.
Who was the judge?
It's in the paperwork. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, we were young. It was 98. So I was 8 at the time. Glenn was 6 at the
5.
time.
Yep. 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was actually around this time, like
yeah, it was
that year,
Easter
actually.
Eve, 1998.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you. I mean, so I see 3 different avenues for relief for so one of the things that's happening right now, for example, is that I'm a professor at the University of Minnesota. I'm the director of the law clinic program, and my clinic is is a child advocacy clinic. And obviously none of these guys are kids anymore, but we kind of act as if they are in terms of taking the cases. We also have a clemency clinic, and we are representing LaVon Johnson. Our clinic is, for example, in efforts, and someone named Jonte Hudson, who a lot of these guys know as well, who I think Amani knows. They were all in. I think Jonte's been in for 15. I mean, they all went in slightly after Mayan. And the one route is if we can figure out how to change the composition of the pardon board or the rulemaking authority there so that it doesn't have to be unanimous. I mean, the reality is the pardon board is how Mayan got out. But the only reason he got out is because the Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court, who's one of the 3 people on it, it's the governor, the attorney general, and the Chief Justice, she was not allowed to vote in Mayan's case. She had to recuse herself. Had she been able to vote, he wouldn't be out because she wouldn't have supported it. And the way the law is written now, it has to be unanimous. But she was conflicted out because she had worked as a prosecutor in his case. So one of the things that's happening is we're trying to change the law through the courts to keep that from having to be unanimous, because the governor and Ellison will support the release or commutation of the sentences of a lot of these folks. So that's one route. We're trying to keep that alive. The other route is Keith Ellison's conviction review unit, which is not going to be just about wrongful convictions. It's also going to be about excessive sentences. And 60 plus for a child is something Keith will find by default or 57 years or whatever it is, excessive. And so that's something that's another route we're going to go. And we're actually establishing a clinic at the law school to support the work of the conviction review unit so they can take more cases. The third route is this sentencing reform and changing the law to give every child in the state a first look after 15 or 20. I mean, we think it should be 15. We think it should be less, but we think we should be pushing for 15 strategically is yet a third route. And then a fourth route is in Ramsey County. Are any of these cases out of Ramsey? Are they out?
Hennepin, I believe, for sure.
Okay. Okay. Is Amani out of Hennepin too?
Yes.
Okay. So John Choi in Ramsey is creating his own conviction review unit and is going to start going back to court. And he and I have talked about it to reduce sentences for juveniles and young adults out of his county. Here's the other thing that's positive that you should all keep in mind that could provide relief out of Hennepin. Mike Freeman's retiring. And one of the people that I'll just say might be running for county attorney is Mary Moriarty, the former Hennepin County public defender. So that's a place that is important to plug into. Is if we get a progressive, because a county attorney can revisit convictions and sentences out of his or her county at any time. And so in other states or other cities around the country, there are some really progressive defense attorneys that are now becoming county attorneys. And that's how a lot of people are getting out also. So supporting a campaign from someone truly progressive who's willing to look back on these sentences. And I can tell you that Mary is, if she runs.
Mary, what was Mary's last name? Was it
Same one as
Moriarty?
mine. We have the same last name, Moriarty, although it's spelled slightly different. Hers is Moriarty. And if you look at her right now, she's all over TV on the Chauvin trial. She and Keith went to law school together, and so they're pretty tight.
That's good. That's good to hear.
So I say this to say there are routes to relief for.
There's different paths, yeah.
There will be, and they're opening up around the country, and that's a good thing. But legislation is just one avenue. The problem is it just takes time. And I think what people don't realize out here is that every day, that we delay on this stuff is a day of someone's life. And people, go about their business and don't see the urgency. And I think that's, I don't know. I don't even know how to say it.
Yeah, well, no, that's true because it doesn't necessarily affect everyone.
What if it was their children? I mean, what if it was their children? And if more of the children were white, people would be acting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for all the work you do and thanks for creating this space too.
Oh man, of course. I mean,
we are going to continue to actively fight, for this justice, and my family is behind it 100%. We support it.
Yeah, glad you guys came. I really am. And I think the more people we have in the arena, the more people that are willing to speak up and go forward, the better, the more likely it is that things will move.
Absolutely.
So thank you. In terms of, the cases for Krishan or Amani, I mean, I wish I could say there was something to do. I mean, the problem with sentencing relief without these other avenues that I just mentioned is, 15 years down the line, the way our law is set up, you've got a 2-year, it's called a NAFLA bar. And you've got 2 years to challenge a sentence after it's administered or imposed, or you waive the right. Unless there's newly discovered evidence or information. And so unless in Amani's case, there's something new, and it can't be something that you just realized. It can't be like, we just realized we should have challenged something or other. That doesn't count. It's a really, really brutal thing. It doesn't mean we give up. I don't think we ever do.
Prosecutorial misconduct is included in that.
It's included unless so for example, unless you just learned, within the last 2 years that there were documents that weren't turned over. Brady material, things that weren't turned over, or a witness that's come forward to recant or something like that. That's new. That's new evidence, and that'll give you a basis to go back.
Okay.
But prosecutorial misconduct, I mean, one thing, so if you find out, if something comes to light about a prosecutor who has been getting kickbacks for years, and we just find that out, and he happened to work on I don't know if it's true, I'm just hypothetically, and we know that he worked on your brother's case or your son's case, that's something we could go back to court and say, yeah, we don't know for sure, but there's a high risk. Let's revisit, let's reopen this. So that's a possibility. But they make it hard.
Yeah.
They make it really hard.
Obviously.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I've got to jump in 1 second because my daughter's.
No, it's okay. I'm done with my questions unless anyone else has a question.
No, just thank you again so much.
Of course. Very happy
Okay,
to do it.
Perry, did you get my phone number? I don't know if I sent it right.
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay, good.
And Ermias, thank you for joining. Ermias is our cousin too. He's actually Krishan's favorite cousin. So thank you for being so supportive.
Nice to meet you. Let me put this on right now.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm always gonna be around. So, I just wanted to be a part of the conversation, just kind of listen to hear everything. I've always been trying to. Over years, me and Krishan are the same age, and we're like best cousins growing up. And it's just like when they took him, it's like they took a brother from me. So.
How old is Krishan now?
He's 38. We're both 38. I'm gonna be 39 in about 2 weeks, and he'll be 39 in August.
Okay. Oh man, you all are young.
Yeah.
We just gotta get him out.
Yeah.
Get him out.
It's about that time.
Yeah, I would love to see him out. That would be the best thing, to just to see him out and be able to enjoy, life.
Yeah. Mayan just celebrated his 35th birthday in California.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know that was beautiful.
Mani's 30.
Mani's 30. Yeah, that's why I did the math there. I just hadn't done the math for Sean yet.
Like I said, so he's been basically locked up half his life.
Half his life. Yeah, I mean, it's barbaric.
Yeah.
How have they both done in prison? Do they both have decent? Have they been okay?
Oh yeah. I mean, I could speak for Krishan. I know he's completed every single program, possible. He's worked every job. I think he's on the grounds crew now. Yeah, he's been I mean, other than typical fights that happen, but
yeah, sure.
I mean,
but nothing big.
As far as what it looks like on paper, he looks good on paper.
Yeah, and probably some stuff early years for both of them, right? Like when you're first in, there's always little things your first couple of years.
Yeah.
But Amani too, has he been doing okay?
He's been doing pretty good. He's been in the hole a couple of times.
Everyone's been in the hole a couple times.
And what he did do when he was in, I think it was St. Cloud, or one of them, he did attack the person that had bullied him.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened to him. He was bullied.
I mean.
And he didn't know what to do. Like I said, he was 15 years old.
Yeah, there
was a 22-year-old involved.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ferdon, again, it's so similar to my brother's case, man. I would love to connect with you outside of this meeting, man, and just so we can just kind of talk and debrief and just even figure out a route, a path for us, outside of these spaces that we have here with Perry. You know what I mean? Because just connecting with a family who has similarities like us is going to be big. Like I said, because my family's actively fighting, and we got questions and things like that. So I would love to connect with you, Mr. Ferdon.
Okay.
Is that your email there? SJ
yes, it is. That's
okay. Don't worry. I'm gonna send you.
Yeah.
You'll be my name. You see my name, Glenn. I'll be sending you some. Glenn. I'll be sending you an email soon.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's huge. There's a whole network of folks and family members that if Avra sort of expands on this, there are hundreds and hundreds of people who are with you.
And Mr. Ferdon, I was just going to say that I know personally for Krishan, is his name Amani or Armani?
Armani.
Armani. So
A-M,
Yeah.
A-M-A.
I'm on it. Yeah.
okay, so for him, for Krishan, it was tough for him, and I know he's coming into his year where he's going to be incarcerated longer than he's been out. That was really tough for Krishan.
Mhm.
When he had reached the year that I've been behind bars longer than I've been free.
Right.
And so I think that, you know, not to give you any advice, you know, but
It was
I
from
think,
Diane as well.
yeah, like their mental state, just that realization, it was really tough for him to that entire year. It was really, really hard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because it's like I
So
have no
yeah.
life. Like, what is life? You know? Like,
Yeah, so we'll definitely keep you guys in our prayers.
Okay.
Because yeah, it gets tough, I know.
absolutely. Yeah, for moral support, man, we want to be there for
Mhm.
you. You know what I'm saying? My family, we host Zoom meetings probably 2 to 3 times a week. You know, just for our family, just for us to come into a space like this and talk about whatever. We planning a big family reunion, so that's one of the main things. But we also we're starting to have like a financial literacy day, family financial literacy day, things like that. But now I'm thinking about creating a space where we can have almost like I'm gonna nickname it real quick, a juvenile justice reform day, where I'm gonna have like yourself, Mr. Fardon, maybe members of other family members who experience the same issues as us, come into a space and collectively talk about these things and get down to the grassroots and figure out another path. You know what I mean?
I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm gonna go deal with my daughter.
Oh no, we all good.
You all have my heart. You're all very strong, and
Thank you, Miss
we're
Perry.
really lucky to have you.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, Mr. Fardon, I'll be in
I won't.
touch. Y'all take
end
care.
it. I mean, do you want me to try to figure out how not to end it, or you?
Nope,
I
I
think
think
we
we
all
all got
set.
each other's information, so we're all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.